My name is Brittany and I'm a life survivor. A few things that have happened along the course of my life, from sexual abuse to domestic violence to the tragedy of my brother's suicide. My career of being a dancer, exotic entertainer, I dealt with a lot of sexual assault, sexual abuse. I was raped 3 times. It just happened all throughout the course of me dancing from 18 to 26 years old. I guess in that industry, guys just feel like that you're a possession and that they can treat you a certain way if they're paying you money, but that's not how it's supposed to be. Then in relationships, I've dealt with a lot of domestic violence, physical, mental, just again, not knowing my self-worth and feeling that that was how it was supposed to be and not knowing any other way. But the biggest thing was my brother's suicide that was 8 years ago, June 12th, 2010. It came out of nowhere, and it forever changed me. I will never be the same, but I definitely am progressing through it, and each day is a new day to deal with it and try to work through it. It's been very, very hard. The first few days, months, weeks, years, I never thought I would even be able to continue on living. It took a toll on me to where I wanted to take my own life as well because of the sadness and the pain. But I'm happy to say that now I don't need to do that because that would just be the wrong answer. And each day is a new day. You can move forward, you can change what you don't like about your life and progress forward and positive and be happy and live your own life. But that was extremely hard to go through. Not only was I talking to my brother before he did it, I actually was the first person on the scene and saw his body laying there after he had jumped off of George Bush onto 75 in the HOV lane. Yeah, I still unfortunately have visual memories that flood me, but I just try my best to put them aside and work through it all and just know that, you know, I'm strong enough to move through this in life, and I'm not going to let it hold me down or take me to a deep, dark state of depression. During the time, it was about 6 months after my brother committed suicide, I stumbled upon a group that's solely for survivors of suicide. It's actually called SOS, Survivors of Suicide. I will never I can never repay what they did for me and how much of a bond I created with these other people that lost someone to suicide as well. It was a 3-month group. There we would go every Tuesday and Thursday, I believe, and it was a few hours each evening. In the beginning, it was extremely hard for me to sit there and not just bawl cry. And I was just surrounded by other people that have been through the exact same thing that I went through. So in those moments, I knew that it was a safe place for me to express my emotions and just really let it all out. Not only did I deal with the death of my brother that was so tragic, but at that time, from that moment till 4 years after his death, I dealt with every day an abusive, mentally physical, abusive boyfriend yelling at me, hitting me, choking me, slapping me, telling me to get over my brother's death. Just get over it. Stop crying. I couldn't cry in front of him. I had to suppress all my emotions. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through. And it still haunts me that somebody could treat somebody that's so low that way. Thankfully, did not ever attempt suicide, but I definitely did cut myself, and sometimes they were deep cuts. Never went to the hospital for it, just patched them up myself, hid my scars, hid my cuts, hid my pain, hid everything, because that's what I had to do at the time, because the person I was with didn't allow me to express my emotions. It was only after we finally broke up that I was able to fully release the pain and the heartache and the trauma. And unless you are able to do that, I don't see how I could have made it this far. During the time, it was about 6 months after my brother committed suicide, I stumbled upon a group that's solely for survivors of suicide. It's actually called SOS, Survivors of Suicide. I will never I can never repay what they did for me and how much of a bond I created with these other people that lost someone to suicide as well. It was a 3-month group. There we would go every Tuesday and Thursday, I believe, and it was a few hours each evening. In the beginning, it was extremely hard for me to sit there and not just bawl cry. And I was just surrounded by other people that have been through the exact same thing that I'd went through. So in those moments, I knew that it was a safe place for me to express my emotions and just really let it all out. You're living in a body that wants to live with a brain that wants to constantly die. And in those moments, it is imperative that you do reach out, whether it's to a family member, a friend, a 1-800 number for suicide prevention. I've called them many of times because it's anonymous and it's someone that doesn't know you and is not going to judge you. It's extremely hard for me to reach out to my family, but thankfully they know when they don't hear from me for a few days, 3-4 days, that something's going on. Brittany's, she's in her low state and we need to reach out to her, my friends as well. Whether it's writing in a journal, that helps me tremendously. I have 4 separate journals. I write about my life, I write about my family's life, everything that's going on with them. Then I just journal about, abstract things that come to my mind. Journaling helps me tremendously because no one can judge you from that. It's all on paper. You're getting it out of your head. But the best thing that for me works is forcing myself to get outside. Get outside, take my dog for a walk, take my dog to the creek, let him play in the water. Anything that's gonna promote happiness and you enjoying the world. My name's Brittany, and I'm a survivor.